it's like facing a huge Goliath, a monster who's coming after your child. And so, you know, we've got to throw everything we can at this. I'm Jessica, Charlie's mom.
I'm Charlie, and when I was 10, I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma.
My husband's name is Jared, and he and I have been married for 21 years. And then there's Bo, he's 13, and then Charlie is 15, and we live in South Mississippi. The boys are running, and I remember yelling up the stairs like, "Hey boys, quit running, somebody's gonna get hurt." And I heard this terrific crash. Charlie wasn't as clever maybe as Bo because he ran into a wall, broke his toes, and hit his shoulder. So at the time, I thought, you know, that shoulder was what we were looking at. We just kind of continued on with life. Charlie, they went back to school after the COVID craziness was kind of dying down a little bit. Charlie went back to playing soccer, and, you know, we were just doing whatever. But I kept noticing that he was favoring his arm. So when he would run, he would hold it really, really tight. And I was like, "Why you do that for?" And he's like, "I'm not." Fast forward to the x-ray, and they see something suspicious. They've written an order for us to come to Memphis, Tennessee, to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And it was there that after lots and lots of tests, MRIs, CT, blood work, they were saying it's Ewing sarcoma, which is a bone cancer, and it's malignant and it's bad, and there's a 70% chance of his survival, and we've got to start chemo, and we've got to start it right away.
The doctors asked my mom if like they wanted to send me out in the hallway because they had, you know, people that could, you know, entertain the kids or whatever. And she was like, "No, like I want him to stay, you know, in the room. It's his body. He deserves to know." So I was in the room at the time. I really didn't know what it was. I knew that my mom's sister had died from cancer, but I was just so young. I didn't really know what it was. When I first heard cancer, I was probably 5 or 6. My sister Stacy, she had lots of open heart surgeries. She had 3 before she was 3 years old. We found out that she had neuroblastoma, so she went to St. Jude. At some point, it changed from neuroblastoma into AML, leukemia. So she had that, and she battled and fought, and she died on Christmas Day in 1986. There were doctors who they remembered her. And so it was a time of healing, kind of, for me, like almost therapeutic, which just sounds bizarre that you're going to bring your kid into the same facility that your sister died in, and somehow or another it brings healing and some sort of counseling to your heart. Sometimes when you come to a crossroads and you don't really know which way you're going to go, you know, God just gives you that direction that you need to go. And that's exactly what happened. They said, "These are your 2 choices. You can either have limb-sparing surgery, and they will take the bone out of his arm and replace it with titanium, and he'll get donor bone and donor tissue, or we'll try to do radiation in that area, you know, but it can make the bone brittle. I mean, it can shatter, you know, later on in life. There's no guarantee that this is going to work." The best case scenario was to remove the diseased bone. I have never heard of donor tissue and donor bone before. You hear about heart transplants and lung transplants and, you know, even skin transplants. But when they were talking about that Charlie would get donor bone and donor tissue, I was completely mesmerized and fascinated. But the questions like, well, whose is it? You know, where would it come from? And you know, who gives that kind of stuff, you know? And how will that help him? People have to know. People have to see the face of a person who has received something like that, because then it becomes real to them, and it's a real person, not just some story that they read about in some magazine or something or online. It's a real kid who desperately needed donor bone and donor tissue. And because of, you know, donations, you know, that I received and other kids receives, you know, it means life.
Today, he's cancer-free. There's no evidence of any sort of disease in Charlie's body, and every day is a party.
Last year, I was able to attend the Transplant games with Team Mora. And you see, like, you know, like these walks, these 5Ks. We never really got, like, involved with any of that. And until I'd gotten my, you know, transplant from the donor tissue and donor bone.
It became real to us that these people who have come to this walk, they're supporting families like ours. And so it became really important for us to learn every single thing that we could about it. It was important for me to write to that donor family. I had a lot of torn up pieces of paper for my drafts. And like, what do you say? How can I thank you? How can I appropriately make sure that you know how grateful we are? I wrote the letter and I mailed it, and I didn't think that there would be anything that would come from it. And then one day I got a letter back and I was like, what's this? And the family had written back, and we're hoping to meet up one day. One day we want to meet up, and so we can hug them and thank them in person.
Because their son donated his tissue and bone, I can do the stuff I want to do. I'm able to do the stuff that I love to do. I'm able to just live my life again. And without that donation, I'm doing things that I would never even dream of doing without it.